Coke.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our discussion about global payments. It's a great pleasure to lead this topic today, and especially because I have an amazing guest with me who is very knowledgeable and has so much to share about this. So let's welcome Keren, SVP of Product Management and Strategy at Payoneer, which is one of the most popular platforms for global payments, and I'm sure all of you have heard of it. Noah, welcome.
Hi, Katerina, and welcome everyone. Thank you for hosting me today.
It's a great pleasure. Let's start with a quick overview of what are some trends you noticed at Payoneer lately, especially with the pandemic boosting digitization in many industries. Did things change for you, considering you were a big player before that as well, or what were some things you've noticed?
Wow, so a lot of happening, on top of the digital booming, we also had the COVID-19, which was really moved the customer behavior, and as such, also changed the way they are doing and their business. We see a large trend of much more globalization around the shopping, right? And as such, we also see a lot of changes around getting to know your customers when it's a much more global arena. Digital coins are everywhere. And I would also add that as part of the digital boom, we have the high bar of the customer experience. So who are setting the bars today for the customer experience? It's the Google, it's Amazon, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, right? So when they are coming to do, whether it's a merchant or they are coming to do payments, etc., they're expecting the same customer experience, right? So in a way, I would say that the payment arena is set not only by the players of the payments, and the banks, of course, but also on, it is set by, the trends are set also by companies that are not necessarily in the nature of payments.
Right. If we talk about how you grew as a company, a lot of new companies are coming up lately. Everyone is starting small, everyone is starting local. And now coming to what you are today, what was that journey like? And what are some challenges that you had to face with that globalization of Payoneer?
It was hell of a journey. I will say that. It's it has lots of ups and downs. It's not easy. I mean, I think the first step when you bring a value or a product to the market and you do it locally in a specific region, it's hard, as it's always hard to bring a new product, right? But then when you are saying, okay, I'm successful in this region, I want to take it globally. So you need to tweak the value. Let's put it aside. Let's assume we are doing that. The more challenging part is how do you make it effective? Like how do you do the regulation, the compliance, the banking relationship that you need to maintain in an effective way that your business model will fly. Okay, I think that, by the way, it's a very interesting and exciting journey, but it also has a lot of potential for small vendors to come and play active part in the journey of the bigger one. Right. So I think the how to expand globally is something that we still didn't figure out as a society or an industry or as a market, what's the best way to do it. But by the way, it's okay. Also, when you are coming to say, okay, I have a legacy, I need to do modernization. There is no one case that fits all, right? I mean, you need to find the right way to do modernization that fits your customers, your market, and your technology and product at the end of the day. So I would say that this need to be planned, and when you're becoming a global, you need to plan it very carefully. And I mean, don't think you know everything on your own. Try to sit with people who did it in their past, understanding whether you should do it region by region, and how much do you need to prepare, how much you should develop on your own, how much you should rely on third parties, right? And again, there will be downs, okay, and unexpected behaviors, either of customers or regulation or compliance, but this is part of the journey.
Right. What do you usually do when it comes to complying to local laws? Do you collaborate with someone locally? Do you use some third-party services to enable that for you?
So it really depends. First of all, sometimes as a licensed company, you have a seat at the table with the regulator of the country, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you don't have a license in the country, you still, of course, play, and you just take either compliance consultant or a lawyer office that this is what they do for their living, and you work with them to find your way how to play in this country. And of course, as a global company, we have also a lot of knowledge and a lot of experts in the organization. Right. But you need the right collaboration. If I need to choose, I prefer to work with the regulator in the country, and with lawyers, and with my people to find the right solution and the right expansion.
How is the RegTech industry coming into all of this? I know that part is also something new that's coming up in the space. What value does it bring to the fintech space? How are the two integrated?
First of all, it's a great place to be, the RegTech domain. It's I think as part of the digital booming and as part of the So what's happening? Let's look at it. We have the digital, we have the hackers that are becoming much, much more sophisticated, meaning organizations need to take more risks, tools or risk solutions in order to protect themselves. And on top of that, also the countries are, as part of regulation and compliance, have high expectations from you as a payment player. And on top of that, I will add the digital coins. We cannot ignore that, right? The crypto and its friends. And all that strength, think about it, is translated into RegTech, right? I mean, how do you overcome that? How do you overcome the fact that you don't want to lose money, you don't want to take risk, you want to be, of course, comply with the regulation in place? You need RegTech solutions. And I think this trend will continue to grow, absolutely, the RegTech and the need in the RegTech. And I would say it's a very good place to be.
Nice.
Maybe I will just add that me as running product management at Payoneer, I would say I will always prefer taking a RegTech player instead of developing it on my own. This is not my bread and butter, right? This is not something I'm doing at my best. There are small companies who are doing it much, much better, and they are focused on that. So I want their service.
Are you using different products in terms of this? Third-party products, or is it mostly just one or two collaborators?
No, it's a very wide portfolio, because don't forget, you need the KYC tools, you need the eKYC tools, you have KYB, you have a transaction monitoring, you have entity screeners, you have selfie vendor. Yep, there are many, many, many vendors, like when you do bank verification, you do document reading, automation, many vendors. It's a large portfolio that we are using. And again, our strategy is not to develop in-house.
Right, that's great. And this is an amazing advice for everyone looking to solve a problem in this space. Like starting a startup that solves anything into the regulations is one good way to go, right?
Yeah.
Great. So your infrastructure is basically, in terms of technology, that's not the primary thing that you do, but you have your platform, you collaborate with a lot of third-party vendors which have their own products like this, and all of that contributes to the experience of your end customers. How do things work and look on the background, like in terms of technology, in terms of services you're using, and how were your starts as well? Because I'm guessing that at the beginning you rely more on third parties, and then you decide to do something in-house.
Yeah, so it's interesting. First of all, actually, the other way around. We started developing stuff we shouldn't have developed, and we moved to use third party, and we are moving to use more and more third party. I think on top of all the third parties, there is a still layer which is Payoneer technology and the Payoneer wisdom, how to run, it's not only about payment. Today, Payoneer is not doing just payment. We are doing financial platforms. So we have many solutions like working capital, like merchant services and payments. And as such, you can imagine that there is a layer of the application or the product themselves. Now, I think what is interesting is, first of all, how do you make sure you are embedding all these vendors in a smart way? And we are looking also at the layer that we build that is AI driven, and this is in order to manage in between these smart tools, because each tool comes with its own machine learning, deep learning, AI, name it. On top of that, the orchestration needs the logic as well, right? So the moment you find yourself as multi-vendor approach and you have multi-vendors in your platform, first of all, you need to be much more open, right? And on top of that, you need to make sure you have smart orchestration and smart ability to manage the data in between all these vendors. So I would say that this orchestration layer that I'm sure every large company who is working with multiple vendors is a challenge. By the way, there is already today some startups that are looking to build this orchestration, right? There was always apps, but I think there are today startups that are very much trying to position themselves as the brain behind all these vendors that are focused on the RegTech usually.
Mm-hmm. So then you end up just combining all these pieces from different places and then not having to do much of the heavy lifting on your side.
Katerina, sorry, you are muted, so I couldn't hear you. The question?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Can you repeat, please?
No, I was just saying that with all of the startups that are coming up and covering all these different areas, including the orchestration, then for companies such as Payoneer, you end up not having to do any of the heavy lifting because everything can be connected together.
Yes, correct. This will be very helpful.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's interesting that you mentioned that at first you started developing everything internally, and then after you learned that you can rely on third parties, you switched to this model, which is an amazing learning point for every company that's just starting off, because you're always trying to reinvent the wheel and trying to do something new and better, which is only a pain for the company and just slows down the growth, basically.
Correct. I agree. Listen, the journey of developing a portfolio, you don't know that you are building a portfolio. You start very small, like how Payoneer started with cards, right? So you start very small, and then you say, okay, I just need this entity screener. I will do some bare minimum. But with the time and the journey, everything is becoming so complicated, and the regulation and compliance are becoming much heavier, and you understand, it doesn't make sense, right? Let's just adopt a product that this is what they are doing. So I think it's always a matter of maturity of the company. There is something a bit naive, and I like it. It's sweet, right? When a startup is starting and they say, oh, I will do it on my own. Later on, we'll solve it. So then you find yourself in a place where you start replacing. And I actually a great believer of, if there is a company that is giving it as a product, let's use an existing product. We should not develop anything, again, that is not in my core, right? I have my core, right? A financial layer. And by the way, also financial services, you are saying, okay, some items, I'm willing to partner and expose their value, right? I don't need to develop everything in-house.
Yep. And I guess when you think that the technology is the biggest problem that you should face on, that's when you face this challenge, because you think if you can build it, then you can solve it. But after that come the real challenges, which are the regulations and everything else you need to focus on. So it just creates a much bigger problem, and it's much better to rely on something that exists.
You know, Katerina, it's very interesting what you're saying. I think that today building in the FinTech product, it's not about bringing the value, because let's assume you solve that, right? You brought a good product, it brings value, the customers are happy. It's about how do you easily adapt this to the different markets and to the different regions, assuming this is your strategy, of course. Right. And this is the challenging part, right?
Yep, exactly. And you mentioned you started small. You started with credit cards, and now the world is shifting into different payment methods. You mentioned cryptocurrencies. There are digital credit cards now as well. We know that the cash is a payment method of the past, but what happens with the credit cards? Do you see them as something that will continue existing in the fintech space? Would that change anyhow? How do you envision the future, basically, of payments?
So I love this question. By the way, there is an easier question. What's the future of cash? The more sophisticated question is what is the future of cards? I think cards are here to stay. I think there is huge potential with cards. It's very handy. The customer experience is good. You don't need to educate the market. Many cashback solutions around cards, and I don't see the cards going anywhere in the next, I would say, 5 years. Okay. Now, maybe after that, there will come, again, it will become digital cards. For me, digital cards is a card, right?
Right.
Of course, there are more adoption and more business cases for these digital cards to support more business cases. Definitely around the crypto coins, right? But I think cards are here to stay, at least 5 years. Okay, I don't know about beyond.
Okay, and does Payoneer have any? Do you plan on introducing crypto into the payment space that you cover right now? Is that something that would be part of your strategy long term, or is it something that you're still not considering?
So this is a great question, because what did we say? We say to come with a new product, it's easy, right? I mean, just to embed crypto in my portfolio, from functional perspective, I can do it relatively easy. Right. But what do I need really to do? I need to solve how do I take this product worldwide, right? With the regulation and compliance, with the risk foundation to support this. I'm working with banks. I want them next to me, not against me. So I want to do it in collaboration with them. Right. What does it mean? There is the ecosystem of the crypto. So we are, just to answer your question, we are analyzing now with the relevant regulation and banks, what's our options. And as part of this analysis, we'll decide whether it's worth and we can do it right, or we want to wait a bit.
Okay. So that means you're open to it, you're considering the options.
Yeah, but we will not do it without our nature partners, without the banks next to us, without the regulation office next to us. We'll do it from collaboration perspective. once you're global and you have so many relationship of offices you need next to you, offices I call regulation, compliance, banking, etc. By the way, also some enterprises, right? Like marketplaces, etc. You want to do stuff from collaboration perspective. You don't just do stuff, okay?
Right. Yep.
So it has effort and it takes time a bit sometimes.
So we're coming back to the same conclusion that when you're in the payment space, in fintech, and you're growing globally, the most important thing is to have your partners, to have your like infrastructure to handle everything in different countries, not only the technology, because as you said, implementing crypto payments is very easy as its own, but not that easy to make it compliant to every country that you're in. Great. And when it comes to the challenges that you've been facing over the years, last year we had the Wirecard incident that happened, which was hugely popular at that point, and a lot of your users were concerned about what would happen with the uncertainty that brought. And I know that it brought you out much stronger and able to handle a challenge like that. But let's talk a bit about that. Considering you're a huge player in the field, and how this type of publicity hurts you much more now than it would in the early stages, for example. How does a company like Payoneer handle this? What happened internally? How did you solve the problem? How did you use it to grow stronger afterwards?
Yeah, so it's the Wirecard is one in a lifetime event, right? It's a major milestone, okay? And I would say that there are multiple steps how to overcome such an incident, right? It started with all of us working 24/7. You were talking about publicity. We were not focused on the publicity. We were focused on our customers, and we wanted to make sure none of them is, being harmed, and everyone gets their money. And it wasn't a matter of liability. It wasn't a matter of publicity. It was really a matter of making sure our customers are getting their money. And this was what we worked around the clock just to make sure. How do we do it, and how do we make sure not more customers are being hurt? And after you finish this first initial cycle of solving the incident, you move to better, change the way you operate. How much do you put all eggs in one basket, right? How much also you need now to start fixing the publicity around that. And it was very, very stressful back then. It was very stressful, but we learned a lot out of it. And I really hope that our customers felt we care about them more than we cared about back then about our name or brand or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, from our perspective, from a company that's using your service, I think the feedback was great from all of your end users, because everyone was at the end satisfied with how things were handled and how the situation didn't escalate for too long. And after that, you decided to issue your own credit card. And this goes a bit against what we discussed before, that using vendors is much better than implementing the solution in-house. So how much of a risk is it to rely on an external vendor with a thing like this, for example?
So we are working with the banks, right? So we are issuing, but we are using the banks, right? We didn't really develop. It's about just, it wasn't about developing a product. It was a decision to just start issuing on your own. Mm-hmm. It was a very minimal effort, and really there was no rationale on not doing it on our own. We wanted to control the where, the what, the customer experience for sure. So it was back then. It wasn't a debate. It was very different from the RegTech,
right?
Or risk and KYC tools and stuff like that. Really, the financial products we provide are assets, right? We are launching a PayFac, a payment facilitator.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's our product, it's our brand, it's pre-integrated to all the foundation. It didn't make sense if I will rely on existing products that will not enjoy all the benefits I can bring to the table, whether this is existing customers, no need to register, onboarding, we are managing in one place, is enjoying the same application, mobile app, desktop application, all the analytics, etc. So just bringing a third party didn't make sense.
Right. What was, if you are going to emphasize one biggest learning from this, what would that be? From the whole experience?
From the Wirecard you're talking about, right?
Yep.
I would say always be modest. Modest meaning not everything is in your control.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is it's trivial, but still, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? I mean, try to have as much as you can vendor redundancy and your ability more to control in case of crises or incidents that are happening.
Right. Yeah, that's, I think, a great advice for everyone. Okay, and we're wrapping up the conversation. What would be some final thoughts that you would like to share with our audience? Something from your experience or your ideas about how the space is going to grow?
So first of all, I think FinTech is an amazing market to be in. I think this market is changing every day, literally every day. Not only from the potential perspective, but also from risk and regulation and compliance perspective next to it. And I think we are going to have exciting days ahead of us. Absolutely. So, I mean, stick to this market, build good products, plan your going global, and enjoy the ride.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Noah. It was a great pleasure to discuss with you today on this topic. And I hope everyone else enjoyed it. Thanks to all of our attendees, and stay tuned for what's coming up next.
Thank you, Katerina, for having me.